So we have a main event for UFC 281.
Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira on November 12th.
It's going to be at Madison Square Garden.
One of the greatest venues on the planet.
I absolutely positively guarantee you.
The toughest fight of Israel Adesanya's career.
That the next fight that Israel Adesanya fights will be absolutely batshit nuts.
I think Pereira is really problematic. You know, he's a very good striker. He's got incredibly heavy hands.
I'm such a sucker for a specialist.
UFC middleweight champion of the world.
I love watching the guys that are like at the tip of the ability.
There's nothing sweeter, nothing more exciting than rivalries going back years before fighters have become the stars they are today. Even more exciting is when those rivalries involve one fighter KOing a fighter who would find massive success in the UFC and cement his status as one of the legends of the sport. Some of those rivalries arise due to the fighter's motivation to be the best. Others are born due to a grudge. Some fighters want to repair an injustice in their eyes, something that was taken from them, and now they want it back. Such is the rivalry between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. At UFC 281, they'll once again collide in a match that could propel one fighter to UFC stardom, reminding the other that there's someone on the planet that's better than him. Or it could cement the status of one of them as the greatest middleweight in UFC history. Both of them willing to risk their lives to prove something to the world. To understand their rivalry better, we need to peek into the minds of these warriors. Alex Potan Pereira is a former middleweight and light heavyweight kickboxing champion. There's something in common with fighters that originate from Brazil and find success in the MMA world. The names that we've come to cherish, such as Charles Oliveira, grew up in poverty in their hometowns. They faced adversity from the beginning and had to learn strategies for becoming better in every way. It's a small miracle they ended up the men they are today. Alex Pereira is no exception to this. Pereira grew up in the favelas and dropped out of middle school to work at a tire shop at the tender age of 12. He quickly became lured by his friends to start drinking, leading to him becoming an alcoholic from an early age. To this day, Alex remembers this period as the most difficult in his life. Pereira would often spend his evenings drowning in alcohol all by himself. I had a bit of a rough and difficult life, Pereira said recently. I started working in a tire shop when I was 12, so my childhood was cut off early because I had to work, so I didn't watch many cartoons, movies, and series. Sometimes you'll ask me something and I won't know how to answer, and I'll just say I didn't watch it. Some people will say I'm an arrogant person, but my childhood was different. Most of my childhood was busy with work and trying to help provide for my family. Pereira decided to change something in his life after a longer period of succumbing to an alcohol addiction. They say that we need to be truly fed up with our vices to start getting rid of them. It seems to be the case with Pereira. He lacked a clear vision of his life and was trudging along his days, guzzling drinks and causing trouble. It was during this period that a silver lining appeared for the Brazilian. Since he wanted to start fights, a thought appeared in his mind. Why don't I become a fighter? He was big and strong and could handle himself easily in street fights. At the age of 21, he found himself walking into a kickboxing gym for the first time. It was by far the best decision he made in his life. Alex has an outstanding kickboxing resume with over 40 kickboxing fights under his belt. He has a record of 33 wins, of which 21 by KO and 7 professional losses.
He hits people, and it doesn't even make sense.
He has one of the scariest left hooks in all combat sports, regarded as having the best left hook in kickboxing.
He's the same size as these people.
He's able to find the off switch on almost everybody he fights.
But he hits them. It's like he's a heavyweight and they're a lightweight.
Pereira made his kickboxing debut at Waco World Championships in 2013, where he won against Selby Devereaux. In 2017, he defeated Simon Marcus via unanimous decision at Glory 46 China for the Glory Middleweight Championship. He then faced Artem Vakhitov in a fight for the Glory Light Heavyweight title at Glory 877. He won by split decision and became the first Glory 2 division champ in the promotion's history. Having reached great success in the world of kickboxing, Pereira felt the need to showcase his talent in MMA next. He made his debut against Kamela Tony in 2015 and lost the fight via submission. It was a disheartening loss, but Pereira wasn't a man to give up at the first sign of trouble. People doubted that he would manage to find similar success in MMA as he did in kickboxing. Yet Pereira persevered and proved the critics wrong. Pereira signed with Legacy Fighting Alliance and made his promotional debut against Thomas Powell in 2020.
Dangerous range to be in right there. I think you're right, Pat.
Body kick hurting.
And now a knee, and Pereira.
Some breaks. Oh my goodness.
Off the kick.
Elbow like that.
He won the fight via knockout in round 1.
Kick over and out. The power of Alex Pereira on full display in his Legacy Fighting Alliance debut. By knockout, Alex Portan Pereira.
Despite his outstanding kickboxing record, what Pereira is certainly most known for is his knockout win against Israel Adesanya. Not once but twice Pereira beat Adesanya in the Glory Heroes promotion. The two fighters met the first time during Glory of Heroes 1. After 3 rounds, the judge gave Pereira the unanimous win. A win Adesanya disputes to this day, but the second time they met was the stuff of highlight reels and a fight both warriors remember for totally different reasons. Unlike their first fight, Adesanya was by far the busier fighter and manhandled Pereira for a large portion of the fight. However, the kickboxing world would soon witness the true power of the Potan. In a swift exchange, Pereira connected his left hook with Adesanya's chin and sent the Nigerian-born fighter straight to the canvas. It was a spectacular win for the Brazilian, and one that caught the eye of many different promotions, among which the UFC. In 2021, Pereira signed with the UFC and made his UFC debut against Andreas Mihailidis at UFC 268. He won the fight via a flying knee TKO early in round 2. The UFC world has witnessed the coming of one of the most feared kickboxers in the history of the sport.
I'm telling you, that's what this guy does to everybody.
After that fight, Pereira would face Bruno Silva in a matchup that proved more difficult than expected. Pereira showcased his striking prowess yet again, but also received damage from the powerful shots and grappling attempts by Silva throughout all 3 rounds.
Your winner by unanimous decision.
In the end, Pereira secured the unanimous decision win with 3 30-27 scorecards in his favor. It wasn't as convincing of a win as the one he had in his debut, but nevertheless, his record remained perfect in the UFC. His next fight would come against the US middleweight, the loudmouth Sean Strickland, who was on a winning streak that showed no stopping. Strickland demolished his previous opponents with his deadly striking combinations.
Strickland with a massive KO!
It was the first true test in Pereira's career. The fight would tell the world whether Pereira had the material to rise to the top of the UFC pecking board. The fight didn't last long, in a sequence that eerily reminded fight fans of the kickboxing bout between Pereira and ADESANYA. The Brazilian caught Strickland with a perfect left hook on the chin. Strickland instantly hit the floor, struggling to get to his feet, allowing Pereira to land the finishing blow. It was a statement win for Pereira. Many expected a dogfight, but it was as lopsided as it can be.
That's the next middleweight title challenger, Alex Pereira.
The road was paved to the biggest fight of his career. There, a Nigerian-born legend awaits. Israel Mobalaji Adesanya is a Nigerian New Zealander who started training kickboxing at the age of 18 after watching the movie Ong Bak, Muay Thai Warrior. When he relocated to Auckland, New Zealand at the age of 21, he joined City Kickboxing, where he trains and prepares for his fights to this day. Adesanya made his professional MMA debut in 2012. Afterward, he went on an 11-fight tear and captured the AFC Middleweight Championship and the Hex Fight Series Middleweight Championship before signing with the UFC. It was evident that Adesanya was destined for bigger things. His deadly kicks, creative striking combinations, immense power, and fighting IQ were too much for his opponents. Always one to seek a greater challenge, Adesanya signed with the UFC in December 2017.
You ready? Let's go, gentlemen.
He made his debut against Rob Wilkinson at UFC 221, which he won in the second round by a TKO.
Middleweights, I'm the new dog in the yard.
Adesanya would go on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC.
I keep saying, man, I don't throw in hope. I aim and fire, down the barrel.
And defeat the likes of Anderson Silva before getting a UFC interim middleweight championship match against Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 236. Gastelum was known as a difficult fighter to face. Despite the size advantage, the interim title bout was a dogfight. Adesanya seemingly did more damage, but Gastelum had a few powerful sequences as well, catching Adesanya like no other fighter was able to. Still, Adesanya would win via unanimous decision and become the interim middleweight champ.
I was willing to die. I knew I was willing to give it all and leave it all in there.
He fought Robert Whittaker at UFC 243 to unify the UFC middleweight championship. It was a fight that would become one of his most cherished highlight reels. Viewed as the biggest fight in the history of oceanic mixed martial arts, Adesanya KO'd Whittaker in the second round and became the undisputed UFC middleweight champion.
Said I don't have no knockout power. You too skinny, bro.
Amidst the pandemic, Adesanya would face his toughest challenge to date. Or so it was believed by fight fans and critics worldwide. His opponent was Paulo the Eraser Costa. Costa was one of the most feared fighters in the promotion, touting an undefeated record up until that point, and a relentless style of always pushing forward, not afraid to receive damage as much as he handed to his opponent. His crazy fight with Yoel Romero still stands as one of the most exciting bouts in recent history. However, the fight was a masterclass by Adesanya. He controlled the distance perfectly, dished out brutal calf kicks, and TKO'd Costa with a vicious head kick. His dominance in the middleweight division cemented.
205 has a new king. Are you still interested to fight with the super fight champion versus champion in the light heavyweight?
He would seek even greater challenges.
Yeah, I definitely will go up in weight class, whether it be heavyweight or light heavyweight.
In a move that's taken only by the most fearless warriors, Adesanya would go up to face Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title. However, the challenge would prove daunting. Blachowicz used his power and experience in the light heavyweight division to easily take down Adesanya and give him punishment with a vicious ground and pound. Adesanya struggled to control the tempo of the fight as never before and lost the fight via unanimous decision. It's his only loss in the UFC.
Didn't go exactly the way I wanted to go, but, dare to be great.
Israel reached for the stars and fell just short. No one could blame a man for trying what so few people tried before. After the loss, Adesanya went back to middleweight and easily defended his title against Marvin Vettori at UFC 263. He would win the bout via unanimous decision and extend his middleweight title defense streak to 3 defenses. Then it was time for a rematch. A seemingly more mature Robert Whittaker would get a chance for revenge against Adesanya at the main event of UFC 271. The well-rounded Whittakers fought 3 times since losing the title to Adesanya, picking up impressive decision wins over Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and Kelvin Gastelum. The last stylebender would again dominate the fight, and although he didn't knock Whittaker out as he did the first time they met, it was still a decisive win for Adesanya, who extended his UFC win streak to 11 in what was his 4th title defense. Looking for fresh blood after lapping his opponents, Adesanya then faced the Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier, at UFC 276. Adesanya eased to a unanimous win over Cannonier and retained his middleweight title. However, the bout left a lot of fans unsatisfied by what they'd seen from both fighters. They wanted to see more from both the champ and the contender. Adesanya claimed that he had an off night, but still, fans wanted to see a lot more aggressiveness from both sides. On that same card at UFC 276, Pereira buzzed the world, and Sean Strickland's chin with his electrifying win. It was a statement win that required attention from the champion. The rivalry between Adesanya and Pereira is so ferocious that it threatened to consume the lead-up to UFC 276. Fans were clamoring for Pereira and Adesanya to both win their fights so they could face each other again. During the press conference, Sean Strickland jabbed Adesanya about his loss to Pereira. and Izzy seemed to get a bit emotional in his response. Adesanya wasn't set on revenge before the talk of a super fight between him and the Poton became a reality. Still, he believes the universe handed him a gift by presenting him with the Pereira fight. He plans on outclassing the Brazilian and inflicting punishment with 4-ounce gloves as opposed to the boxing gloves Pereira used to knock him out. In response, Pereira said that if he knocked Izzy out with 8-ounce gloves, he could do an even greater damage with 4-ounce gloves. Their back and forth makes fans worldwide salivating in anticipation of their encounter at UFC 281. Both fighters will come to the fight with different goals. Adesanya will gun for revenge and add a spectacular win to his highlight reel, replacing the one fans remember from the last time they met. It'll be another step forward for Izzy to secure his throne and cement his status as one of the most deadly middleweights in UFC history. If Izzy will be fueled by dreams of revenge, Pereira will be fueled by the nightmares of his past. Memories of so many nights being drunk still sit fresh in Alex's mind. He could have easily walked along a different path, a path of violence and disappointments. He chose another way, supported by loving family and friends. Even today, Pereira still fights for the pride of his mother and father. How can he continue drinking and doing damage to his body when he knows that it'll hurt his family? He dedicated his entire being to becoming the man and fighter he is today. And nothing will change that. Pereira looked death in the eyes and said no. It's tough to beat a man like that. But if someone's able to, it has got to be Israel Adesanya. No matter the result of their November matchup, we'll watch and respect their journey and the sacrifices they made to get to where they are today. We will respect their perseverance and dedication to overcome the greatest obstacle of them all, their own personal demons. As of August 2022, our documentary started getting copyright claimed by Combat Sport Promotions. This means, once claimed, we do not earn any money from these videos, despite pouring hundreds of hours into perfecting our content. With your support, we can continue expanding our dedicated production team, and of course, creating one-of-a-kind content here on YouTube. Please show your support to us through our Patreon in the link below. So we're here on YouTube to stay.